and welcome to physicsworld.com. I'm Joe McEntee, Group Editor at IOP Publishing, and I'm here at Harvard University in the US to talk science and to talk cooking, and to find out what happens when you put these two unlikely ingredients together and stir. David Waits, Professor of Applied Physics at Harvard, has done just that with a pioneering general education course called Science and Cooking, from haute cuisine to the science of soft matter. With help from some of the world's most famous chefs, David and fellow faculty are using food and cooking to help undergraduate students get a taste for all things scientific, from the basic rheology of fluids and solids to the physics and chemistry of complex phase changes. So thanks for inviting us along today, David.
Oh, my pleasure. Glad you could make it.
So, first up, where did the idea for the Science and Cooking general education course come from?
Well, it was sort of a series of things. We had a postdoc from Catalan, Auger Campas, who came to me and said he'd like to invite Ferran Adria to visit Harvard. I said he'd never come. But Auger was persistent, and he had me write a letter, which he translated in Catalonian. We invited Ferran, and he came, and it was a madhouse. I mean, it was just a fantastically popular lecture. And so after the lecture, we talked to Ferran and realized that we all had more or less the same general idea, the same general philosophy, and decided that if we offered a course that would be a combination of astronomy and physics, we could do something interesting. And so we agreed to do that, and then Michael Brenner heard about this and said, well, let's do it as a general education course. And he's been really the driving force behind making it into such a spectacularly successful course, he and the chefs.
Okay, so can you just talk me through some of the headline themes of the course in terms of both the science and the cooking?
Well, there have been lots of, really fun things. For example, Joan Roca, one of the chefs, got in front of the class and he says, I'm going to show you something cool. I'm going to show you something, in fact, something that's super cool. And so all the students thought it would be something really cool. And then he made this wonderful dessert, and he used a rotovap, which is basically a still, and he distilled water with eucalyptus flavor and made very, very pure water. He cooled it to -5 degrees centigrade, and he took it out of the refrigerator. This is all on video, and he showed that it was still liquid, and then he poured it onto the dessert that he was making, and as soon as it hit the dessert, it froze and just did this massive freezing. And the students just loved it, and they broke out into cheers because it was really super cooled, not super cool. But that, of course, gave us an opportunity. We had talked about phase diagrams. It gave us an opportunity to talk about supercooling in the next class. And so we did another experiment. We did a demonstration. We taught them supercooling. Another time, we would have all the chefs who would make emulsions and foams. You can see these things. So every time they made one, we'd take it and we'd show the students what it looked like in the microscope, but we show the chefs too. And so the first time the chefs had seen their own creations under a microscope, so they could figure out what it is they were actually making. So the class was just filled with little fun things like that.
So 12 weeks in, what's the verdict amongst students and faculty?
Well, I think it's become a very popular course. I'm pretty sure the students really enjoy it. It's certainly a wonderful way to teach freshman physics to students, particularly students who don't want to study physics necessarily. And what I say is that we're able to establish our own traditions. Since it's a new course, we can establish new traditions. And so we have several traditions. For example, when they see a wonderful dessert, they clap. When they see an equation, and we give an equation every week, they clap. How often do you get students to clap for equations in a physics class?
Not very often. So what about the chefs? How have they found the whole academic
I think the chefs have enjoyed it. I think they all learned something. They're very honored to come to Harvard and give lectures, and just as we're really honored to have them come here and give lectures. And so I think that aspect they enjoy. I think they enjoy seeing the enthusiasm of the students. Most of them will give office hours. They'll go and they'll spend some time in the lab, meet the students, and I think they really enjoy interacting directly with the students. I think they've learned a lot. They all come back, and when they're done, they say they've learned as much as we've learned. So I think it's been really beneficial and enjoyable for all of us.
So, in what sorts of ways do you think that the chef's exposure to Harvard science and scientists will feed into gastronomic innovation?
If I'm really honest, I'd say not at all. But I think that what they will learn is that, and I think the truth is that they're learning that there is some science behind what they're doing, that science has something to offer to what they know about. They're learning how to use new kinds of materials that scientists have begun to study. I think what's going to happen, where the real dialogue, and that's what Ferran Adria calls it, the dialogue that will begin, is when the students who take the course go out and they start combining the knowledge they've gained from the course with their own interest and enthusiasm about cooking, that new things will happen. And hopefully that'll go to the chefs as well.
So it sounds like the course will be back on the schedule next year.
Well, there was so much interest in it this year that it seems natural to offer it next year. The chefs have all agreed to come back. Alicia has agreed to participate. They've been invaluable. Ferran is going to come and spend some time at Harvard. He's been invaluable. So it seemed like a natural thing to do again. There's interest among the chefs, there's interest among the faculty, and I hope there'll be interest among the students as well. Certainly there was this year.
Great stuff. Well, good luck with all the planning for that.
Thanks very much.
Next year's course. Thank you.